Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. My name is Sarah, also known as Laugh Love Langella, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a simple DIY refresh to our entry table. This is actually something that I have been wanting to do for quite some time now. I've really been wanting to find an antique or vintage console table to be able to put in this space, but it's just, to find that really amazing piece takes time. It can also be very expensive, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with this entry table. The other issue I was running into is that I actually use all the drawers in this table. There are 9 drawers. It has that apothecary style. I'll put some overlay clips so you can see the before of this. I actually bought this in our last home, in our rental, when we first moved down here to North Carolina 4 years ago, and I've styled it in so many different ways throughout all the seasons, and so many of you love this piece as well and have picked it up yourself. But I just haven't been able to find that true vintage primitive piece that would fit this space. This is also a very small area for an entry table, and most of the tables I was finding were much larger. So I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I really wanted to, since we have redone our flooring, change the color of the entry table. It definitely had more of an orange tone before than I would have preferred. Super functional. I love the piece. I use it so much for everything. It's a great organized catch-all, but I wanted it to feel more cohesive with our home in the direction that's going in. So I actually refinished this piece the same way I refinished our coffee table a year and a half ago, and I love the color of that one. So many of you do too. It was actually a Facebook Marketplace find that after a few years, I decided to refinish and give it a new life. And it is by far my favorite Marketplace piece I've picked up. And I have no intentions of it ever leaving. And it looks so beautiful. So I wanted it to be a cohesive area here. So I'm going to share with you guys how I did this and gave it a little refresh. So that way, if you guys have this table yourself, if you find a beautiful piece on Marketplace and want to refinish it too, it is honestly super simple. So let's get right into it. So to start off, I'm gonna grab some painter's tape, and I'm actually going to number all of the handles, making sure I label them in the right direction, just because I don't want to run into issues when I go to put these back on with holes not lining up perfectly and everything. If it was just a singular knob, I honestly would totally skip this step, but I'm trying to make sure that when this goes back together, everything goes back together exactly the same as it did before. So the first official step after hardware is removed, drawers are out and labeled, is I'm going to be sanding the piece. You always want to start off with a lower grit and work up to the higher one. That makes it a much finer finish. This table, I don't need to sand it to strip or to fix anything. So I'm just doing a 150 and a 220, and it honestly did the job for me because it was already a very smooth table, and all I'm actually looking to do is remove the sealer that's on the top of it. So here is how it looks after sanding it. Don't mind the cicadas and everything else in the background. I was not trying to get it down to the full bare wood. I was really just trying to scuff it so that way the stain will adhere so there's no top coat on it. I prefer having some color to work with. I think it'll give it more character. But now we're gonna do that same combination. Well, first wipe it off. But the same combination I did on my coffee table, which is special walnut and then the gel stain coffee. And I want to get that deep, rich color, but still see the knots and the wood grain in it. So we're gonna wipe it down and get to staining. When you're wiping down the piece after sanding, this is a really great time to take a closer look, see if anything needs some more sanding done to it, if anything needs wood filler. This would be the perfect time to fix it. But the first step we are going to do is add the Minwax Special Walnut as our base coat. Just keep in mind that if you have old stain that's already been opened and it's sitting in your garage, over time it will oxidize, so it will actually get darker. So this one I've had since my coffee table video, so this stain is likely going to be put on a little darker than the first time. I'm honestly really fine with that. I'm just gonna put a good amount on and then take a shop rag and wipe it off. It's so funny looking back at these clips while I'm doing the voiceovers. The special walnut stain literally stained this table the exact color that it was before I sanded it. What I ended up doing is staining it, leaving it overnight to sit, and then went back in with my gel stain to make sure there was no tackiness, there was no wetness. It had a full moment to dry and get some air on it. But I thought it was really funny that I managed to literally sand and restain this table the exact same color that it once was. But I do feel like sometimes it really helps with the undertones of the piece. So after letting the stain settle overnight, I'm going back over it with this Minwax gel stain in the color Coffee. Gel stains can be a little bit finicky to work with, if I'm being totally honest. You have to mix them up really well before you use them, as well as during, depending on how long you're going to be staining for. They are very concentrated versus a regular stain. And when you are applying it, you have to do it in a sweeping motion, keeping it wet and going back over it. If you go in circles, you will find that it gunks up very, very quickly and leaves marks on the piece that you're refinishing. So this clip here is actually a perfect example of what happens when you put on the stain without giving it direction. You can see there's this weird mark in the middle of the panel. The easiest way to rectify that, you have to do it immediately, is just slather on a lot more stain and rework it, and you will have it work its way out. You do have to do it right away while it's still wet, but it can be fixed. So it's kind of hard to tell, but this has one coat of stain on it. It is definitely darker than it was before. I am going to do a second coat of the gel stain. That's the great part about gel stain, is that you can actually build it. You can see here, this is better to tell because the lighting is just rough. It's late now. But the coloring just looks so good. wear gloves if you have. I didn't have any on my hands, so now I need to figure out how to get this off of me. But I'm gonna do the second coat tomorrow. Just something to keep in mind, stain can spontaneously combust. So don't put that in your trash can. You can let it air dry and then throw it away. If it is wet, do not throw it away. Just a little FYI on that. But I'm gonna let this dry overnight and then do a second coat. So it's the next day now, and I'm going to be putting the second coat of the gel stain on. You can definitely see there is a subtle difference between it. It's not as noticeable as when you put that first layer on, but it definitely helps darken the piece that much more. My coffee table took 2 layers of the stain. This I did 2 as well, but there are certain parts that you will see later in the video that took the stain a little bit differently. So this is future Sarah speaking. I will be putting a third coat on just some of it, but I'm going to give it some time to cure first. So you can actually tell really well in these clips, the drawer fronts took the second coat so much nicer than the rest of the table did. So they're just gonna get the 2, but I really love the darkened color tone of this piece, and it warms up our entry space so beautifully. I like that there is more contrast between our table and the flooring as well as the mirror. I think it helps it pop that much more. And here is a quick reminder of where we started off with this table. You can really see the orange tone in this clip, as well as there being a lack of contrast between the floors and the mirror. And here is how it actually turned out. I love how contrasting it is. It adds so much warmth and better matches the color tones that we have happening throughout our home and where I'm looking to go and achieve in some of the other spaces that I have not finished out just yet, but I really love how this piece transformed. And the finishing touch is putting everything back together again. I love the contrast between the table and the mirror. I felt like before everything was blending in a little bit too much because they were too tone on tone with the wood and the gold frame. And I think that this just really makes the space pop that much more and adds so much warmth in the space. For my entry styling, I actually did a couple of the different variations I shared with you guys and combined them together. I knew I wanted to use these maple leaf stems. They are my go-to for early fall decorating. I just love the pop of color, and they pair so beautifully with the new pillows that I have on our couch. But I love how the space came together, and I'm excited to hear what you guys think about it. So that is going to wrap up today's video, friends. I know it's a different pace from the decorating and the decor and everything, but I really love how this piece turned out. As I mentioned, I'm definitely going to be touching up a couple of the areas when you're working with gel stain, it can definitely be finicky. So I want to give this a couple of weeks to really cure before going in, so I don't pull off any of that stain I already put down. But I'm already really loving the color tone now versus what it was before. It was still a beautiful piece before, but I feel like it fits our home that much better. So I hope you guys enjoyed the process. We will be getting back into the fall decorating and decor in my next video. So if you are not subscribed already, be sure to subscribe and ding the notification bell. It will alert you anytime I have a new upload. As always, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here today, and I will see you in my next video, friends. Bye.